Hello, Frugal Force. This is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and this episode has been created because it was voted for to have this video done by the members of the Frugal Force and the Patreon. So anyway, the timing is just currently perfect for this video because we have Brie Larson doing none other than the Captain Marvel movie, and when I think of Brie Larson right now, the movie comes to mind. What, did you think I was thinking Captain Marvel? I mean, all the time she keeps opening her mouth and keeps causing destruction. So when I think of Brie Larson right now, I think of Rampage. Now, granted, I haven't seen the Rampage movie, but, I actually hear it was pretty good, though it was underperforming in the box office, just like I probably predict that, Captain Marvel's going to be. But anyway, I digress. This video is about none other than the video game Rampage. When I was a young lad, or actually I wasn't, I think I was a teenager at that time, I remember seeing Rampage at the arcade. And it was still at that point in my life where we're still pretty broke, so I never was really able to play it in the arcade. But eventually I was able to play it on other systems. And trust me, this game was ported to many different systems. Rampage was released in 1986 as an arcade game by Bally Midway. And it's currently owned by Warner Brothers, henceforth why we had the Rampage movie. In this game, players take control of one of three giant monsters, and you're fighting the military as they try to stop you as you tear down buildings. And the goal is in each screen to tear down all the buildings and then progress to the next day. Now, if you enjoyed games like King Kong and Godzilla, you might like this because it's in that vein where you're just tearing things up. Now, I will say, the gameplay does get repetitious. It's a little bit tedious eventually. So, maybe it doesn't hold up today. But if you want a game just to play for a short period of time, with, for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, this might be a really good one to jump on. Or if you want to play it even longer, here's where a game really picks up, is when you're playing with multiple players. I think that's when the game really, really steps up. During that period of time, I never really got to play it, as I said, on the arcade, but I did have several ports. And the first port I got, I remember playing that port like crazy, and that was none other than on the Atari 2600. Now, granted, right off the bat, as you can tell here, the game doesn't really probably hold a candle to the arcade graphics, if you will. It just doesn't. But you still have all three characters in the game. And you know what? I have to admit, the play style of it, the way the game played, actually was quite fun. When I compared it to the other ports, and I took off my retro goggles, I will say I was quite impressed with the playability of this game and how fun it actually was, especially compared to the time it was made. Yes, as you hear, the audio is definitely 2600 audio, which is, one of the weakest parts of the 2600. The graphics are struggling, but you got to remember they had very limited ability to put a lot on that cart. And for what they could put on the cart, this was actually pretty darn good. So anyway, later when I was able to get my hands on an Atari 7800, I thought I was stepping it up, a new echelon of gaming. This system, Atari 7800, was supposed to compete with the NES. And as you hear here, they cheaped out on the audio. They put the same audio chip as the 2600 in it. But it still was a graphical upgrade compared to the 2600, so I really expected a lot out of this game. And as you see here, the graphics really are pretty darn good. You have your choice of the characters, all three characters again. But you know what? I don't know what it was about this game when I did. I actually still like the 2600 version better. Sure, the graphics were much better on this game, but there was just something. I probably using those wonky controllers that the 7800 came with that were just pathetic. I never was able to get one of the pads. I had to use the traditional one that came with it with the paddle, and it just made this game hard to play, made it very awkward and hard to control. So to be honest, with the graphical upgrade and all, I really still preferred the 2600, and I can't recommend this version. Now, the ports didn't end there. There were still more ports to be had. And this port I never had myself. One of my friends got Rampage on none other than the NES. So you think the NES would probably be the superior version compared to what the 2600 and the 7800 had to offer. But no, actually it wasn't. Sure, graphically it looked better, but if you look here, you only get to choose from two characters. Now, I will say, the music was definitely a step up from the Atari 7800 and 2600 versions. The graphics were too. You know, the sprites weren't quite as big as they were on the 7800 though, but it still worked. It just did. It didn't match quite the arcade game, because the arcade game, the sprites seemed bigger. So they reduced it a little bit on here, but still it was somewhat playable and pretty fun. The controls were definitely better than the 7800 version of the game, so I have no complaints there. Out of the three so far I've mentioned, this one ranks right about up there with the 2600 version. I know the 2600 was beaten out graphically and all, but there was still something about the gameplay on that one that made it fun. But hey, maybe it's retro goggles on this that makes it that way. This was playable, but just, I don't know, it just never really grabbed me as anything special. Now, grabbing another cart, another port of this game, if you will, I grabbed one for the Sega Master System. You know, the one before the Genesis. And, you know, I didn't expect a whole lot of greatness out of this one, to be honest with you. But I have to say, I was very pleasantly surprised. Once I popped it in there and looked, the sprites were nice and big. The graphics were actually quite good. As you see here, it really looks nice. It just fits the arcade. The play of the controller works really nice too. But I will say, one drawback, at least for me, is the music on this one. I did not like the music on this one at all. But I will say, it was very, very playable and quite a amount of enjoyment. This one ranked right up there probably with the 2600 for playability and just fun out of the game. Now granted, with all these ports, and they're good and all, and there is many other ports too available that I've never been able to play, there is another way to get this game that I found it to be even better and closer to the arcade yet. And it's not even that expensive. It's found in the Midway Arcade Treasures, and you can get it for the PlayStation Portable also as a download for the Vita. And so it's very simple controls, and it just really works on that handheld. Look here, right off the bat, the screen looks nice, and it has all three characters available. Graphically, it takes you right back to the arcade with the large sprites, the good graphics, the decent audio. Notice no goofy, funky music in the background. Just good slam building fun. Have to say, I like it. I liked it a lot. So if you were going to get any of them at all, you know, to putz around with and play around for a little bit, I would recommend this version above all. I wish I would have found it sooner. I did not find this version of the game until only about a year ago. I didn't even know it existed, so I was always playing on those other ports. I do look forward to sitting down one day, pulling up a second chair for Little Frugal, and having him join in and us together just tearing up buildings and eating some soldiers for fun. Well, Frugivores, I hope you had as much fun watching this video as I did making it. If you did enjoy this, please help me out. I hate shilling like this, I really do, but it really does help the channel. Please be sure to hit like and subscribe and hit that notifications bell, and maybe share this video with some others. And if you want to help the channel, we have a Patreon where you can help join our Patreon right in the link below. Click on it, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. Then sometimes what I do is I put up voting where you get to choose out of a group which video would you like me to make, which is how this video was made. Also on top of that, I give free Frugal Force prizes just at random. Once in a while pop, somebody gets pulled up and I send them a Frugal Force gift, which could be games, comics, all kinds of odds and end things. So just beware, they're out there for your fun, and greatly, we truly appreciate everything, all the new subscribers as the ones that have stuck with us. And until next time, keep it frugal.